Welcome into another edition of Noon Dish. I'm your host Tommy Ashley. That's Don Callahan. We are sponsored by we are sponsored by Johnny T-shirt and JohnnyT-shirt.com.
Oh man, that's starting strong.
I know. Shout out to the regulars that come in here. I think Don's heavy breathing on the logo screen scared some people out of here. Today is Wednesday, October 25th. North Carolina football recruiting alive and well.
Look at Sean Crawley doing your job for you.
I know, the man is
Crowley.
always here. Smash that like button. Hit the like button. Drop questions in the chats. Gary Lewis, shout out to Winston-Salem. Put in here where you're listening to us from live.
I'll be in Winston-Salem Saturday.
You going to the right high school?
The right high what?
Do you know which high school you're going to?
I do not. As of right now, I do not. I got a travel basketball tournament I got to go to, and we don't get those for those parents who do the travel stuff. Well, I don't know. I guess other sports, but basketball, like you don't get any information until like 2 days before.
Oh, I got it. So you're going because of that. You're not going to
Yes.
cover some high school recruits, you know.
No.
Got you.
Although I am going to Jacksonville, North Carolina tomorrow to see an offensive lineman, in-state offensive lineman North Carolina has offered.
Nice. Is
But
that 25?
Saturday is what's that? Yeah, it's a 2025. But Saturday is for family duties. No idea what time I need to be there yet. No idea what time I'm leaving. Kind of stinks.
Is there anything worse than travel basketball? At least travel baseball, you're outside enjoying the beautiful weather and not jammed in a gym somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather be inside in climate control than outside in the hot sun, but that's just me.
You're soft like the Phillies. Hey, I pointed this out to Don before the show started, and before we get into this. That's Zach Gallen right here. Zach Gallen bobblehead behind me. He plays for the Diamondbacks.
I pointed out that Zach Gallen went 0 for 2 against the Phillies.
He's pitching on Friday. It's team sport, Don. I mean, clearly.
It's good for him that it is, and he didn't pitch every game. But no, I mean, really, shout out to the Diamondbacks. I mean, they played their game 6 and 7, did their thing. I mean, I said this on a post. I mean, it's old school baseball, but they played it. You know, they get a guy on base, they get him to second, and they hit him in. It's pretty simple, and not a whole lot of showboating on their team. They play hard. They have great players. No superstars. I mean, it's a good team, well managed team. And then you look at they obviously have some really good management because they basically put that bullpen together just before the trade deadline. So, good luck to them in the World Series.
Yeah, a week ago or 5 or 6 days ago, I was saying I would never watch baseball again this year because I was not going to watch the Astros and the Phillies. And here we are with the Rangers and Adolis Garcia having an epic day. And but it's crazy, it's crazy how you can be so hot 1 minute. What's his name? Castellanos just tearing it up.
Yeah.
Starts the series and then does nothing. The big three of the Phillies does nothing in games 6 and 7. Sort of like, Carolina football. First 6 games to the Virginia game.
I know people are tired of hearing about Phillies, and I think this is be the last time we talk about the Phillies into the spring. But this is what the Phillies were all season long. It was feast or famine. They literally, I mean, you look at the games they won, it was 10 runs.
You are a message board poster if I have ever heard it, man.
I mean, look at it. I've never followed a team like this where it's like literally 10 runs when they win, 1 or 2 when they lose. And usually the 1 or 2 comes from not the top guys on the team. So
you are peacocking when they're winning. You're slamming them when they lose.
Hey, no, the things that irritated me are the things that caused them problems. It's the manager, the lineup.
Schwarber was your best player for a while there.
Yeah, but he had a walk. He did have a double last night, but then the people behind him. But so that goes back to imagine what that double would have been had he been cleanup or batting 5th and somebody been on base. But we have him and second, and he's slow as And so,
When you have a state guy in your top three lineups, you're destined for trouble when it matters. And game 6 and 7.
well, it really, in all honesty, and this might sound like excuses, should never got past game 5. They had game 3 and 4 won, but the manager mismanaged the bullpen situation. Got Kimbrel in there, blew both games towards the end, but because Arizona didn't play like Arizona until game 6 and 7.
Lordy mercy, 7-game series, bro. It's not over till it's over. Anyway.
No, hey, they deserved it. They played. Their manager stuck with the plan. I mean, even when the Phillies were winning, they were playing hard. They were running out ground balls. They were still stealing base. I mean, they were doing what they needed to do. I mean,
the life of a Phillies fan. Is it? and now we're on to hockey, as folks watching on the YouTube.
We are. They play, and fortunately, now I fell asleep during it, but fortunately, the Flyers were playing Las Vegas, and their game kicked off. Puck dropped at 11. But we probably need to get into something else. People are already.
Yeah, people are. No, there's more people trickling in. It's like they're trickling in saying, like, when did I walk into
hockey talk? Let's get in here.
Yeah, is this intentional talk on MLB Network, or is this a Frozone on NHL Network? But no, we're going to talk about a couple things. One, top 5 for later in the show. Top 5 scary monsters, or scary folks like Jason,
the idea,
Freddie, those type of people.
So people can obviously be pretty. There's a lot of gray area potentially. The idea is to keep it on Halloween. Halloween is what, Tuesday? Are you dressing up, Tommy?
Yeah, I got a great costume. I'm not going to tell you.
Ooh, we should go on air.
It is it involves a construction worker jacket. And,
oh my! This sounds like some sort of role playing.
It's going to be great, but I don't want to spoil it because I know some people watch this, and I don't want people to spoil it. But we're having a little party on Tuesday night, so I'll be directing traffic.
I need to go.
Something like that.
I need to go check my mail, see if I got that invitation in there. I didn't get it yet.
It's actually, I'll send it to you. I'll text it to you, and then I'll be offended if you don't drive an hour and show up. And then also, so top 5 scary stuff. Like, what scares you? You can do scary movies. You can do scary villains.
Well, I thought we were doing scary monster killers.
Scary monsters, killers, whatever you want to call it. And also, who is our MVP from 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago, Steve Brown. I can't remember what the topic was.
Steve Brown. Are you here? If you are here,
Steve Brown,
step up and claim your prize.
Yes, you are MVP for 2 weeks ago. Our top 5 was top 5 cookies, but we had a lot of we had a big range of topics. If you can remember that far back, that was right before the Miami game. Things were a little bit different for North Carolina then.
It's kind of like being up 2-0 in a series.
Yeah, because 2-0 in a 7-game 2-0 in a 7-game series is such a crazy. Anyway.
Yeah, Sean Carla said Mike Pence is probably busy.
That's right. It's Mike Pence. That's right. I should have wrote that in my notes.
But anyway, Steve, step up and claim your prize. Don will talk Phillies baseball and Flyers hockey with you for an hour. That's your prize.
Yes.
Don, speaking of that Miami game, North Carolina had a ton of visitors there. We talked about that on this show before that. Of course, your columns on Inside Carolina on the premium boards. More reason for folks to be on the premium message boards. And there's Steve. He's shown up in the chat.
Was that a slip, or did you actually do that?
I did it on purpose. I don't slip. But anyway, check out your column. I'm looking at your column from after that Miami game. Just, Don, the environment, the game itself, the atmosphere and all, just that was a big deal for North Carolina recruiting.
Absolutely. So first, were you at that game, like in that gym?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Always.
It definitely, and everybody by now who's in here regulars knows my schedule. I don't stay for the whole game, but atmosphere was great. The fans were great. The students were great. I mean, anytime you have a night game, it just adds a special. I don't know what it is. It adds something special to the atmosphere, and really from a visitor standpoint, I mean, we kind of alluded to some of the. I think we got into. Did we have the list yet last time when we spoke about who?
We talked about David Sanders. We didn't
Okay,
talk about everybody though, because you wanted to keep it on the premium boards.
that's right. That's right. We want to keep it on the premium board. But yeah, so David Sanders made it. I didn't really get to speak to him too much, but seems like it was a very good experience for North Carolina, for him at North Carolina. And from what I was told, UNC definitely made him feel like, a special visitor. Him and his he brought a group of family members, but mostly was kind of walking around with his father, and so that was huge. But there was a bunch of other guys. CJ Jim Coley, a 4-star safety from Tennessee, was there. I know we're going to get into him a little bit more. That Leroy Jackson, the last 2024 target, he was taking his official visit that weekend. There was a bunch of commits. Need to run down the list. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 commits who are making their first or attending their first game at North Carolina. Daniel Anderson, Davion Goss, Luke Masterson, Michael Merdinger, and Jaden Patterson were making their first UNC game visits. So that was pretty significant. And all those guys, when I was kind of talking to them before the season, they had circled this game in particular very early on. But obviously, with North Carolina being undefeated at that point, that just obviously rose the profile of that game. But yeah, I mean, a lot of really good players, a lot of really good targets were at that game.
So, just as an aside, Preston from Greensboro in the chat says, "Did Virginia loss kill any chance with Sanders?" I mean, you've talked about one game by game basis. That it doesn't really matter, right?
So before the Virginia loss, after the Miami game, I felt like I felt better about North Carolina's chances, but I still felt like he would end up at a school like Georgia or Clemson or Ohio State or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's certain guys that have that feel that they're going to go to one of the the national powerhouse schools, the football schools, quote unquote, whatever label you want to throw on those schools. And I got that feeling. I think just him making a decision to attend the game was huge, and then getting that experience was huge. I don't think he's going to look and see that North Carolina lost to Virginia, and that's going to impact his decision whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, because you look at, if we're talking about losing games, and I understand losing to Virginia is a little bit different than losing to Ohio State or Penn State, but teams lose.
Yeah,
but it's bigger than just one game on both sides, on good and bad sides. So certainly an interesting thing. What about the Virginia game? I mean, there was some significant recruits there as well. I know you were on it. You promised us that you're coming to the tailgate at the Campbell game, and I'm gonna hold you to it.
I considered coming for the Virginia game. I thought about reaching out to you and seeing if I can
shrimp bowl, oyster roast, all that kind of stuff was going on.
What's going on for the Campbell game? Do you know yet?
Well, it's at 12 noon, so I guess it'll be Bojangles biscuits and omelets.
Woo!
Come on, come join it. You're welcome.
I will. Hey, so I didn't even check to see what time it was. So the fact that you're telling me now is at noon. Is that noon?
Noon.
Okay. Yep. That actually increases the chances of, well, I'm going to be there, but that makes it easier for me, I guess I should say.
Do we need to get you a parking pass for the Bowls lot, or are you going to walk down?
I could just walk down. I mean, yeah, I could just walk down. I mean, I didn't know that you had it like that, Tommy, where you just have a bunch of parking passes in your back pocket.
Well, I guarantee you somebody will come through with a parking pass for Don Callahan.
No, I have a parking pass in the Craig deck.
Oh, that's right there. So you definitely can just walk down.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Virginia game, Virginia visitors.
Yes. There was 2 DBs. So just to kind of backtrack for a second. So the UVA game, for a lot of reasons, was not a game that the coaching staff had targeted to bring a lot of recruits to. Obviously, if a recruit that works for their schedule, like with Laganza Hayward, that worked best for his schedule. That was his off week for his high school team, so it made it easy. He actually, him and his cousin drove in on Friday, spent Saturday obviously in Chapel Hill, stayed until Sunday, left Sunday. That just worked for their schedule, so that's why he visited for the UVA game. I'm sure there was a similar sort of fits for our schedule for Pedro Riaz also, who was there this past week. And those were the main two, plus Tyshawn Alston. But at this point, you almost forget that he's there because he has attended so many UNC home games. He's up there with the commits as far as how frequently he attends UNC home games. But yeah, so they did have some major targets, and those two DBs I'm referring to are 25s that have been offered that UNC is very high on.
Yep, folks need to get on the Inside Carolina Premium boards to check it out. Don's got his weekly scoop, weekly versions of the scoop come out with a ton of information on all of that type of information. We share as much as we can here, but folks in the chat that are on that premium board understand you got to get in there and check it out. And of course, join the chat too as well. A lot of people discussing it. Don, let me move on a little bit on that aspect of it. And again, folks, get in your top 5 killers, villains, whatever you want to call it, scary people, boogeyman, whatever. Which that's a crazy movie too. Anyway, I wanted to ask you about. We always check in and see what guys are doing on their senior seasons, and you've got that up earlier this week, actually yesterday. But let me ask you a general question.
Okay.
Which 24 recruit has surprised you the most in their senior season?
So I've only really dove into the offense so far. The defense we're going to do next week. So let's just, if you can bear with me, and let's just stick to offense.
Okay.
There was a couple. I'm going to be honest. Like those who know, I don't try to sugarcoat stuff, but I was really kind of impressed with the commits, especially when I guess being a human, you kind of go into this with an idea. Okay, a lot of these guys aren't. You're not going. There's not a bunch of 4-stars who are commits to North Carolina, but watching all their film, I was really impressed. But to answer your question, the guy that I liked the most was Janai Norwood. Super impressed with this film. Now he's projected as an offensive lineman, but the majority of the highlights I saw of him were him playing defense. He's played a little bit of defense prior to this season, but this is the first season where he's starting both ways. And I mean, he's just absolutely just wreaking havoc on a backfield, and has a lot of nice plays where, he tips up a screen pass and catches it for an interception, where he literally, like, as he's tackling the running back, he shoots the gap, tackles the running back, and somehow gets the ball and then just rips it out of the running back's grips. I thought that was impressive. But and because of this, it has, and some other people who've watched the film have asked me, what are the chances he plays defensive line? I've posed that question to a couple sources, and the goal, the plan still is he's coming in as an offensive lineman. But once they get on campus, he gets moving around. Who knows what could happen? And they're very happy that he's also excelling on the defensive side of the ball. Another name I want to bring up too is
While you're hunting that, Norwood, of course, from Eastern Randolph, in Ramseur. Can I read Ivans' quote?
Sure.
On the thing? Andrew Ivans said, "He's a box checker for sure, a guy that I think will have a case to move up in the rankings with a strong week at the Shrine Bowl, playing both ways and making an impact on defense. He has a pretty impressive interception on the highlight reel. That's the one you cannot overstate athletic ability on the lines, but also, athletic ability on the offensive line. North Carolina's probably struggled with that a little bit, having those athletes on the offensive line. He's got a chance to be that guy if he doesn't switch over to defense. Don, who's your other guy?
So the other guy I want to mention was Andrew Rosinski, who we talked about, I believe, last time, because he was bumped up to 4-star status by the 24/7 Sports guys. And give credit to those guys for, Rosinski was not super heavily recruited. He committed to North Carolina in in late January. At that time, just off the top of my head, and we're what, it was 10 months ago. It was like Vanderbilt, Duke, I think NC State might have been in there at that time. So it wasn't like Alabama or Georgia were seriously recruiting him, had offered him any visit, sort of thing. And it is harder when you watch film, you like a kid, and then you look and you say, oh, well, the big schools haven't offered him. It's hard to make the decision of, okay, screw that, we're going to rank him a 4-star. And so credit to them for doing that. But watching his film, I see what they're talking about. Looked a lot stronger, was much more flexible, and just it plays. One of the things I do when I do this is I go back and watch their junior season film again, and just to kind of, it obviously refreshes my memory, makes it easier for me to kind of compare what sort of progress they've made, and definitely has made some improvements between the two seasons. Definitely has added some good size. Definitely is meaner, and moving really well, during his senior season. So great move by the 247 guys. I know people always get on to them every time they make a bad move or move a kid down. But this is not an easy kid to move up just because of what I mentioned earlier. But he definitely deserved it.
Yeah, a ton of work. I'm impressed by your ability, and I'm not blowing smoke up your rear end, but I'm impressed by your ability to put this all together in a coherent thing, a coherent package that folks can check out. And of course, if you're on the message boards, you can look up, there's a paragraph and a quote on each player. Some pictures tossed in there as well. Jordan Ship's a guy that's wearing it out in his season. Who maybe, Don, has not stepped up like you thought they would? I think that the one you would mention first, or the one I'd probably mention first, is Merdinger. But and I don't know if it's fair to really say who hasn't done what they're supposed to do, but is there a guy out there that you thought maybe would be more impressive so far this year?
So I liked Merdinger's film. I liked it better than I thought I was going to. And the issue that we've talked about before is his stats aren't great. He's completing, I think I have in here, 54.3% of his passes isn't good. That's not typically what you see from a kid. There is, people are going to bring up the fact that, okay, the translation from high school stats to college, there is not like a direct, I guess, relationship between the two. But there is some sort of like, if the completion percentage is really bad, then it makes you kind of wonder. So I would love to have an opportunity to, and I don't know if I have the time to do this, but I would love to break down a full game to kind of see just exactly what the problem is. Is it a bunch of drop passes? That can certainly be the issue. Is he playing a bunch of really good teams that are jumping a lot of things? Does he not have enough time for certain things? What could it possibly be? But from the highlight film that I watched, I liked it. I thought that he did a really good job of moving around the pocket, avoiding the rush, keeping his eyes downfield. A lot of the passes were shorter passes, not a whole lot of deep stuff, but I didn't think it was terrible at all. I thought it was pretty good. And I guess the other guy, Alex Taylor, he's the one who dropped in the rankings, and I don't think he's having a bad season by any stretch of the imagination. I think one of the issues is, because obviously I'm aware of what 247 has done with the rankings heading into this review. So I'm trying to look for, okay, what did they see that could have dropped him? And I think one of the, as strange as it sounds, he's getting better at quarterback play. So you don't see a whole lot of these, head tapping grabs or one-handed catches because the ball is thrown where it needs to be thrown. I always tell people, you show me a spectacular catch, I'll show you a poorly thrown ball, because the ball is thrown well, you're not going to get a spectacular catch. And so I think that kind of hurt him a little bit, as strange as it sounds. But yeah, I guess that's kind of the main two that people have kind of someone has had not a great things to say about.
Well, one other aspect that you put in your scoops, and this is about current team, and I'm not going to ask you about their play and all, but you highlight redshirt burned, and you keep up with the class coming in. Are you surprised at anything you see when you put that together? I mean,
The
Amari Campbell's played a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything surprised me just because I've been doing this for years, and so I kind of expect not a whole lot of guys to play. And then we hear about Campbell. You know how it was. I mean, during the offseason, Campbell was the name that was constantly being talked about as somebody who would see the field. So him, quote unquote, burning his red shirt, I feel like is kind of expected. I mean, it's just, none of these guys they're playing, they burned the red shirt, but none of them are like significant contributors. I think that would probably surprise me more than anything else. So I feel like it's kind of on par for what we typically see every season.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You got Amari Campbell. He's made an impact when he's gotten the opportunities. Of course, had an interception. You got Caleb Koss, Chris Culliver, Michael Short, also having played in 5 games. That's an interesting quad there.
Well, the thing to look at, so Campbell obviously has 28 defensive snaps. All the rest of the guys, Koss, Culliver, and Short, the vast majority of their snaps are on special teams. I mean, Koss only has 2 defensive snaps. Culliver only has 7 snaps on offense, and Short has none. So it's all special teams. And this is what happens with freshmen, and this is why when people are like, we didn't have it so much with this class, but in years past, when people are like, "Oh, this guy, he's gonna start right away. He's gonna start as a true freshman," or a kid will tell me, "Oh yeah, I'm trying to get out there and start as a true freshman," and it just, statistically speaking, it just does not. It rarely happens. It happens. Don't get me wrong, it happens, but it rarely happens.
Yeah, and we've seen how important special teams are, and covering kicks and blocking and covering returns and all that is huge. Not quite as important as the people actually kicking the ball on special teams, but definitely a very important part of it. So a lot of information there. I'm going to take a second to talk about Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com, sponsors of this podcast, title sponsors of this podcast and others on the Inside Carolina Podcast Network, and of course the place for you to get all your Carolina gear. If you're in Chapel Hill, or if you're not able to get to Chapel Hill, you can get on there, get online, JohnnyT-Shirt.com. They've had a sale on hats and toboggans and all sorts of things this week, 25% off. If you're an Inside Carolina Premium subscriber, you get another 10. I mean, that's 35% off. They're giving this stuff away. If you're an Inside Carolina Premium subscriber, take care of them. They're local. They're alumni owned and operated. They've got everything you could possibly need, and they've got all the cold weather stuff. I'm in the bonus room because the bonus room is cooler in the winter rather than blazing hot in the summer. Somebody was asking why'd I move. What I need to do is go get my Johnny T-shirt sweatshirts and wear those to stay warm, because they certainly got everything you could possibly need. Let national guys pay the bills as well. It's the noon dish with Don Callahan. We'll be right back. Okay, Don, we're right back. It is still a little bit before the half hour. Shout out to the 50 plus that have joined us here in the live chat. It's always wild to me how many folks we can get in here on a Wednesday to talk this stuff. Don, what else do we need to know about North Carolina recruiting? We've talked about the Virginia impact. We talked about the great Miami impact. What else goes on during a season that sort of impacts what you see in the classes coming up, be it 25 or 26?
Well, Leroy Jackson is probably the main story that we haven't hit on yet. Defensive tackle from South Georgia. UNC offered him, I guess it was about a month ago. Had watched what we kind of laid out after North Carolina came out of the summer with basically every single objective filled, with the exception of that defensive tackle spot. The goal was, we have some guys on the board. Let's watch some senior film and offer from there. That's what they did. Jackson was the guy that they felt like they needed to offer. They did. He immediately scheduled an official visit for the the Miami weekend, and coming out of that, scheduled November 4th. Initially was November 3rd. That's going to be his senior night at his high school. I'm sure somebody told him, "Hey, it's probably not a good idea to do it a day of a high school football game." Now he's actually committing
the day of a
while North
Carolina
Carolina
football.
is playing, exactly when North Carolina is playing on the 4th. So anyway, so he has also taken, so the week of his UNC official visit, like during that week, he took an official to Appalachian State. He also took an official visit to Iowa State in June. Houston, I believe, and Georgia Southern are his other finalists. But this obviously, this is going to come down to the 3 schools that he officially visited. I think it's probably going to come down to North Carolina and Appalachian State, because if he was going to choose Iowa State, it's hard to see him do that now and without even returning there for like a game or anything like that. And then you just kind of continue with the process of elimination. I cannot, in my time on the beat, Appalachian State has not beaten North Carolina for a recruit. So we'll see how this goes. See if that streak continues.
Yeah, sort of reset at 6'2", 275 from Lee County, Leesburg, Leesburg, Georgia, class of 2024, 3-star, high 3-star defensive lineman. Folks in the chat talking about the struggles of North Carolina's defensive line. They're pretty good until Saturday. We'll see if they can bounce back. But he would certainly add to that should he commit to the Tar Heels on November 4th, the day of the Campbell football game. That Don will be in the Bowls lot, guaranteed for breakfast in the Bowls lot. Maybe we can get Don to give us a live presentation or live covering of the commitment ceremony for Leroy Jackson.
I didn't. Now that I think about it, I'm gonna have to figure out how we juggle this. But I'll talk to Leroy and see how it goes. The other thing I want to mention is, ironically, I think it was like a day, maybe 2 days after. Actually, it would have to be 2 or 3 days after Leroy Jackson watched UNC beat Miami. The Hurricanes offered him a scholarship. They lost a defensive tackle commit, and so obviously they're trying to fill that need. He did not visit there last weekend, and it looks highly unlikely that he'll visit there this weekend because Miami is home again this weekend. But they are also, I guess, a recent addition to his finalist list.
It's going to be an interesting follow for the next couple of weeks. Of course, it's pretty much guaranteed a commitment. Whether or not he commits to North Carolina, the 2024 class is done. Is that a fair thing?
Yes. So I think the staff feels comfortable with, if they don't get him, they're comfortable with kind of pocketing that scholarship and then just saving it for the transfer portal.
Yeah, portal shopping, kind of like Black Friday shopping. Portal shopping in late December and January should be quite active for North Carolina again. And as with every school, I mean, it's crazy when you watch college football these days and everybody's from somewhere else. And anything left on the recruiting aspect of it, Don? I mean, 25 and 26, hot and heavy. Well, let me ask you this. What will you be watching 25, 26 wise over the next, I guess, high school playoffs in North Carolina are coming up sooner than later, right?
Yeah. So I believe this is the last week of the regular season in North Carolina, and then they start the playoffs.
That's nuts.
I know.
We're already at that point.
It feels like the season just started, and before you know it, we're going to be, it's going to be the national championship, and we're going to wake up and feel empty.
It's going to be January. It's going to be cold in
January. So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What is because I don't, you know me, I don't watch all the Inside Carolina or listen to all the Inside Carolina podcasts.
You don't support the Inside Carolina podcast is what you're saying. Other than yours. If it doesn't have your name on it, you don't pay attention to it.
I don't even watch mine. So would love to get your take on North Carolina football the past 2 weeks, talking about beating Miami, a good Miami team, I think, and then losing to Virginia, a bad Virginia team, I think.
I think the Lucy and Charlie Brown uh, description that everybody always has is pretty apt for the way it's been the last couple of weeks. For whatever reason, North Carolina has struggled with success, specifically top 10 success. I mean, I think the stats bear that out. They don't win a ton of games when they're in the top 10 over the course of history, and Virginia was just another one of them. I do think Virginia is a little better than people say. Now, they'll go out and get trucked this weekend, but they had a good game plan and they executed it. And quite frankly, the lines, the margins, and you probably agree with this, and I think it's even the case in pros, the margins are so thin that you cannot come out. You can do it more so in college than you can in pros, but you can't come out and lay a complete egg and beat anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like the App State game and the Virginia game were pretty fairly. It was basically the same game, and just Carolina found a way to win App and couldn't find a way to win Virginia. And I think that's what's the most shocking thing for the fan base and for people that follow it is you have a team that we all said was different because the leadership was different, it was player led and all that stuff, and they reverted back, seriously reverted back to what has people up in arms, worried, whatever you want to call it, from last year and in years past. There's always that one game that, for whatever reason, they can't drag themselves over the hump to get that win. Every team has those, right? If you look across college football, college basketball, look at national championship runs in basketball, there's always that one game where you just have to figure out how to win somehow, some way. And Carolina's managed to figure out how to lose that game a lot in the past. And look, you can wash it away this weekend by beating Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech's better than people say. What gets me, though, is people that won't, and Mac sort of said it in his presser, is it's good for people to have high expectations and be angry about it rather than be apathetic about it. Now, you do it again this weekend and you're going to get some of that apathy roll in, right?
Yeah.
But, I think North Carolina had an opportunity to jump ahead and be in the top 10 this week and get in the college football rankings and all that stuff high up and relevant, and they didn't do it. But still a lot to go, a lot of games to go. The bottom line, the season was going to come down to the end. Duke, Clemson, and NC State. Those games are going to matter now.
Mm-hmm.
They mattered before the Virginia game. You got to figure out a way to win two, maybe all of them, and that doesn't change with the Virginia loss other than now you have to if you want to play an ACC championship game. But I've been around too long, Don, to be surprised, and I think that's my way of softening, like baseball we were talking about earlier. I was like, I'm just not going to watch if these teams make it. That'll free up some time. That way you don't get worked up. So
yeah, I mean, well, it is, in general, it is difficult being, if you are a diehard, I'm not talking about bandwagon people or people who just throw it on when they have nothing else going on. If you are a diehard fan of a team, it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
does,
being a
because
fan
it hurts
is
when you lose games like this. It does. The one thing I'll say is I'm my background, didn't grow up a UNC fan, but I've been around the program enough to kind of take the same sort of mentality that you have. I actually expected what happened against Virginia to happen against Georgia Tech, because Georgia Tech I think, is a well-coached team and has an underrated quarterback. I don't think Virginia's a well-coached team. I don't know how North Carolina loses that. I don't think North Carolina loses now. Now that North Carolina's lost to Virginia, I think the team is woken up. They're not going to take Georgia Tech lightly, and they might actually beat the snot out of Georgia Tech. I actually would think that probably will happen. But yeah, I did not. I don't know. I don't think Virginia's a very good team. But so it surprised me a little bit. But
let me show you. And I'm not calling somebody out when I post this up here on the board, but this is what the mindset is here, right? all of us did a preseason prediction. I said Carolina was going to be 10-2. I thought they'd be 10-2. I think I had them losing Pitt and Clemson.
Okay.
And they beat Pitt,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody kept saying after the Miami game, asking me, "Are you going to change your prediction? You're going to change?" No, I'm not going to change my prediction. I said 10-2. Period. And then you have this right here, and this is not to call Tar Heel Huddle out because it's been awesome in the chat today. But this technically they've underachieved. That's what's so disappointment. They.
Wait, do you think they've underachieved?
No, I do not
Okay.
think they've underachieved.
I
Now,
agree.
I said this yesterday on the beat. If their goal and their expectation is to go 1-0 every week, then they did not meet that goal last week.
Mm-hmm.
How realistic is that to go 1-0 every week for Carolina football?
It's so the thing that stinks about sports in general, especially football, is that if North Carolina plays Virginia 10 times, how many times does North Carolina win? I mean,
Maybe 9.
It might be 9. Yeah.
But this isn't a 7-game series, right?
I know. It's
and
not.
that's what people don't understand is
Yeah, and it just stinks that Virginia got that one game out of the 10. And that's for every team in college football, and why I hate when people speak in absolutes. Oh, this team's going to win. This team's going to. No, you don't know that. I mean, these things are so and especially when you're dealing with college kids, but is your prediction, does it still stand at 10-2 right
Yep.
now? Okay.
Yep.
So you think what's the second loss?
Not sure. If I had to lay one on it, I would say
Because
Clemson.
Clemson hasn't looked great.
They haven't looked great, but they're still good where it matters,
Yeah,
and that's
they're
the
good.
trenches, and that's the defensive line. And Carolina's proven that they've struggled. Part of me says the Virginia game took the place of the Georgia Tech game, and that because I think to your point earlier, Virginia game maybe helps North Carolina beat Georgia Tech.
There was a very real that was the one thing I think I've heard Max say before that I disagreed with, where he was saying that it was easier to get through to kids after wins. And from my experiences, and I've not coached at the highest level like he has, I've always felt like losses are a lot easier to get through to people. And so I think, if and I'm not saying I expect this, but if North Carolina runs the table on out, you would look at the Virginia game and say that was a main reason why, because it woke the roster up, to what could potentially happen. Because like I said, North Carolina is not going to overlook Georgia Tech this weekend. At least I don't think so.
Well, if they do, then we'll have a different discussion.
Then there's bigger problems than what we even thought. So
my thing is to your point about that is, and I kind of asked this: can you really get it if you screw up but still win? Does a teenager, an early 20s person really understand that?
You're 100% right. 100% right. Especially, teenagers / early 20s kids, if they mess up and they win, and that's what I think happened last season. The defense was terrible all of last season against really bad teams, but they kept on winning. And then when you played good teams, they lost because they never fixed some of this stuff. And then you had Mac in press conferences talk about how great the defense was and how it was improving when it really wasn't. But so I think it hurt them last season. So I think Mac could potentially get through to them now and say, hey, look, this is why we've been harping on these things. Look, we lost to UVA, and we shouldn't have lost to UVA. So.
Yeah, but the thing is that you did. And you're not taking it back. And I think it takes, and even when teenagers and early 20s and young adults get smacked in the face, they still don't all get it.
You're right.
But I think, and I could speak to that in my former life a lot, but I think if North Carolina comes out and plays a great football game on Saturday, that will tell me as much, if not more, about the leadership within the locker room.
I agree.
And anything anybody says.
I agree.
Because it was pretty clear on this past Saturday. and I don't care what they say, it was pretty clear they didn't take that team seriously
Mm-hmm.
until it was too late.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody kept thinking, got the ball back 4 minutes. They're going to win it anyway. Got
Yeah.
the ball back with a minute and a half left. They're going to win it anyway. And it didn't happen. So maybe that's the light switch that gets through.
Mm-hmm.
And I would hope it doesn't take Mac Brown and the staff to get it through to them. And I agree with Tar Heel Huddle. I hear what you're saying in the chat. Yes, the staff, uh, they dropped the ball and didn't run the ball. It should have been a 50 or 60 carry day for North Carolina. It should have been what Virginia did to North Carolina, and it wasn't. But none of that stuff's relevant right now. What's relevant is how they respond to it.
Yes.
I think Chiswick said improvement through disappointment or something to that effect, and I think that's key.
Yeah.
But like I said, you egg it up against Georgia Tech, and then it's a different conversation coming. Folks in the chat, still got time to drop your top five.
Yeah. So all right. So I look at the rest of the season, and so, I mean,
hold on a second. Let me ask you something, Don.
Sure.
Is it on you? And this is parents talking, right? Dads talking. How much is it on a parent if they tell a child or they raise a child to do what they're supposed to do, and you tell them constantly, I've told you about speeding. I've told you about messing with that girl. I've told you about doing this. I've told you about doing that. And they still do it. How much of that is on the parent? Or
so
on the coach?
my belief is you can't control what the kids do, but I believe it's on me. I believe,
I think you fall on your sword and you take it on you.
I just feel like, and I'll just take it with my daughter, whatever she does between now and whenever, I don't know how far we want to go, but it's on me, and we text all day, every day. I was just yelling at her earlier about, a test that she got bad. I put that on me because, anyway, I'm just a big, I don't know. I think if you show me a good kid, most of the time you're going to see a good parent. And we're going way off the tracks here.
I agree, but it is
But yes, you have no control. Once she's outside the house, she makes, and my daughter, I'm not going to go into too many details, but what was it, about a year ago, made a really bad decision outside the house. And, it's on me. I was furious with her, but it's on me. But I mean, I have no control. But she's got to know that when she makes a bad decision, that she's going to have to deal with the consequences plus me, and she knows that.
Yeah, I've always said the worst thing that can happen. There's the ultimate worst thing, but the second worst thing is have somebody call me from the police station and say I've got somebody down here.
Well, that's so.
I would not use my one phone call to make that call. If
well,
I were...
the trouble she got into.
We're going off the rails.
She texted me beforehand. I thought it was a joke, but then just to kind of bring it to a more lighter thing where I feel more comfortable talking about, today she sent me a text. I didn't do well on that math test. That she studied on her own. Said she studied all that sort of stuff. I didn't have to wait for Power School to give me the little alert because she knows I'm going to be pissed if Power School tells me before she does.
Old Power School. I don't miss those days.
Yeah.
All right. So, the bottom line is, though, it is a complete program loss. The coaches, they've owned it. The players, they've owned it. You can't look back. You go forward. How you address it and how you handle it, that's what I want to see. I want to see there's player-led leadership.
So you believe, though, it's like what your boys do. It's on you, or do you believe it's on them?
Well,
they're a little older.
Yeah, I mean, I think I do my best, and whether I'm coaching or parenting or whatever, you do your best to send them on the right way. But ultimately, they've got to do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I want to say, well, maybe I failed in that regard, but ultimately, did I? Did calling plays in the Carolina Virginia game, not running the ball. I mean, that is on the coaches. But having guys and getting guys in their head that this is an important game. I mean, you tell them 100 times. I just think all losses are not bad.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. I definitely
Yeah.
agree with that. I think
So,
that you could like I said earlier. I think that you can benefit from a loss.
yeah. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
Top five, and I want to take a second to talk about congruity because they've got 5 important points for your mid and small business, and it's relevant because we have top five coming up later. Congruity, North Carolina based, national coverage, local presence, and personal support. Darren and Matt and their team provide a great personalized experience for your small or mid-sized business with HR and payroll outsourcing. They allow you to grow your business while they take care of the people we're talking about, which is your people. Whether it's, I would consider if I owned a business that it would be my family, and I'd want these guys taking care of my family while I grow the business. Top of the line technology and great customer service. Like I said, we talk about other sponsors of this show and other local businesses, and we always talk about customer service. They're top notch in that area. They're top notch with their online platform. Everything you have, they transform your organization into the next level. And those are the top 5 things Congruity can do for you. So here's what you do for Congruity. You go to congruityhr.com/Tar Heels. You learn more about their business. You learn more about what they do, and you fill out this quick survey, and they'll give you a free assessment. Inside Carolina listeners and viewers get a free HR assessment so you can understand just how they can help you and how you can benefit from what they can do. That's congruityhr.com/Tar Heels. Top 5 here on the noon dish as we close
Do we
out
want
the
to just
hour.
go rapid fire? There was a couple questions. Rapid fire with the questions.
Did you see the questions? I didn't get a ton of
I thought I
questions.
saw one that was asking
You
about.
always you always interrupt me.
I'm sorry. I just didn't want you to get it, all comfortable.
This one right here, if UNC goes out and repeats what they did last year after a disappointing performance, what should the conversation be? I
This is for
think
Tommy.
yeah, I think the conversation changes a lot. And then, because as Jason Staples always says, 1 is a dot, 2 is a line, 3 is a trend. Right now we're at the dot stage. Last year there was a trend for sure, but to Mac's point, the teams were much better. But regardless, it was a slide. That was a one of those playground slides that's straight down at the end of last season. North Carolina lost Virginia. They were going to lose at some point this season. Did Virginia wake them up? That's the conversation we have after Saturday. The day after will be lively, folks, one way or another. They're more fun after North Carolina wins. They could be more interesting if another situation arises. Where's some more?
There was Mike Pence, a.k.a. Steve Brown. How does Merdinger compare to Tad Hudson at the same stage?
Great question.
I think, it is at 12:24. I don't know if that helps any.
Go ahead and answer it. I'll find it.
So they're very different guys. I think Merdinger is a lot more mobile, and I think that helps him a lot. Tad is pure arm talent, just effortless, strong arm, can zing it down the field, and he has some inconsistencies. And that's the thing. If you just focus on Tad's film, his highlights, he looks just as good as Merdinger. But I've been to Tad's games. I've been to 7-on-7s with Tad in it. I've seen him at camp settings and that sort of thing. So I've seen a little bit of the inconsistency with his accuracy. He's a bigger kid, taller kid, more of the, he has the look, measurable wise, of like a ACC quarterback. But I think Merdinger definitely has the athleticism. He's more athletic. He's more mobile, that sort of thing.
Is North Carolina's starting quarterback in 2024 on the roster, in Don Callahan's opinion?
2024.
Next season.
I'm going to play the odds and say no. But I'm not completely just ruling out the Connor Harold stuff.
Yeah. I'm on hot take and say yes.
Okay. So you going Harold?
You just know who my favorite player. I've been alleged to love backup quarterbacks forever.
So it is Connor then?
He's the one I would be thinking, but
Okay.
I'm going to go off the hot take and say
And that
yes.
might actually odds wise might be better because even if North Carolina brings in a transfer quarterback, if you've paid attention to the transfer quarterback stuff the past couple of seasons, there's a lot of quarterbacks who go to a program and don't even win the job. And that could definitely be the case. And Connor will have a leg up on being comfortable in the program and then also being comfortable in the system because he's been with
Lindsey.
Lindsey for the past year-ish.
Is Coastal's quarterback still got a year of eligibility after this year? I
He got hurt,
digress.
didn't he?
I don't know. I don't follow Coastal.
I think he got hurt.
Once I quit
Over the
having
weekend.
Willie Lampkin to follow down there, I quit following Coastal. No, I'm not a big Coastal
I
fan.
love so I love the midweek football.
Yeah, it's
And
pretty
Coastal
awesome,
played a
dude.
bunch of midweek football. So
Here's a relevant question. Georgia Hill says, any punters and kickers on the recruiting radar? You got Lucas Asada.
yeah, I mean, so it's such a different position for recruiting purposes, and so Lucas Asada is a combo kicker, which means that he is a legitimate kicking prospect and punting prospect, and also kickoffs. So North Carolina feels like they have a guy who can legitimately compete for all three spots in the 24 class. They usually bring in some walk-ons just to kind of fill up the depth chart for situations like UNC is dealing with right now, where although they seem rare, but kickers and punters do go down at times, but they're just not. And then for the 2025 class, they won't mess with anyone until the spring at the earliest, probably the summer.
Tougher loss. Needing just one of two games at home to go to the World Series or losing to Virginia?
That question was asked on. Did you get
I
that
don't,
from the message board?
no, I just asked it. I was just
I
curious.
mean,
For you,
it's got to be.
definitely.
Well, I think in general, it's got to be losing to Virginia. I mean, Virginia has North Carolina is the only FBS team Virginia has beaten
in a year.
And let's remember, the Phillies were a wild card team. So
well, the Diamondbacks were the 6th seed, weren't they?
they were the 6th seed, but it's not like as always, the Phillies choked. So anytime you lose in the playoffs, you choke. So
Folks,
all
if you
these other
want to
teams
get
choke.
if you want to get Don Callahan off on a tangent, start talking about Pennsylvania, Philadelphia's pro sports.
No, talk about Kyle Schwarber leading off. So I'm hoping Thompson retires because I don't think they'll fire him, and then we bring someone in who understands that Kyle Schwarber is a 4 or 5 hole hitter.
Let's go to the top 5. Top 5 scary stuff. Top 5 monsters, whatever you want to call it. I'll start with Preston from Greensboro. Clowns, Grim Reaper, werewolves, the devil, and Coach K. I mean, that is.
I thought he was gonna.
Like,
Preston, I'm kind of disappointed because there was clearly
5
a
synonyms
Ross
or
Martin joke in there.
Interesting. 5 synonyms in there. Isn't a synonym when everything's the same? All right, yeah. I digress. 5 villains: Mike Myers, Hannibal, the Shark, and Jaws. That's pretty cool. He's shown his age lately.
That's key. I think it's good.
Well, because it was so fake looking when it was seen. Ghostface. Wait, Ghostface is Scream, right?
Yeah, I thought Ghostface Killer. He's from the Wu-Tang Clan.
Well, yeah, we're talking about true scary people. Pumpkinhead.
Oh man, forgot about Pumpkinhead.
Yeah, I hadn't seen Pumpkinhead.
That's probably why he's underrated. But that's good, Sean.
Alan Minton. This is a great one. This is one thing. I'm in my bonus room, but in my way up, in my man tower, man cave, I call it the way up. I have movie posters all over the ceiling, and I have to set up one day so people.
Is the over under on rooms in your house? Is it like 35?
Yeah, 7 rooms in the house.
You're like in a different room every time we record.
Alan Minton says, and the reason I say that because Alan Minton says the Nun. I have a poster of the Nun. Don't ask me why I like weird stuff. Nun, Jason, I have Michael Myers on the wall. I have Jigsaw Guy on the wall, and Hannibal Lecter. Let's see, and I also have Derek Morrison, Pennywise. Dude, I would refuse to mess with anything clowns until it came out. And I love Pennywise. I mean, he's awesome. Pennywise, the chick from The Ring. I can't remember that one. The chick from The Grudge, yes, that was messed up. Freddy Krueger was one of my favorites. The only scary movie I've had nightmares about is the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and then Michael Myers. Tar Heel Huddle. Anything spiritual I can't see. Like, all those devil movies are the same, right? Like, somebody said Hereditary is really good. My boys said Hereditary is really good. The Ring, Grudge,
Is that
Paranormal
new?
Activities. Not really. It's on Netflix, I think.
Okay.
Pennywise, Coach K, the Saw villain, Gone Girl Lady, Rock Molesting Robot SNL, Jeepers Creepers, and the Ring Chick. Um, and then Exorcist, Bridges Over Water. Interesting. Spiders, snakes, UNC football in the top 10. Some really good stuff there. That
Yeah.
is,
This is a good job for a lot of these people.
I know, really. So, what you got, Don?
So I think you had the Freddy Krueger just because I feel like it's classic. I liked who was it? I think it was Tar Heel Tuttle, or Tar Heel Huddle. Um, Anything that's spiritual or I can't see. I have that something similar to that on my list. Like if it's like the, you know what I mean, and then you don't know where it's coming from. That sort of stuff. If you watch those by yourself, no one else is home, can get pretty scary. Any little girl stuff, little girl, like I have a neighbor who has like a little girl as to scare people in their lawn. That spooks me out every time I walk past it.
You like walk, you can see your steps in the dew in the morning, and like walking up to it, and then there's a big
Yeah.
old thing.
Pennywise and any clowns. I don't know if I said it. Did I said it on the podcast or if I said it beforehand? But there's one of the neighbors actually put a Pennywise in the sewer around the corner from my house, and it is creepy. I pull up on the stop sign to make the left to my house, and I see it, and each time I know it's there. It's so creepy.
They need the red balloon hanging out.
They do. So we had the red balloon, but it popped. I don't know why, but it did pop. I have Annabelle. That's just creepy. I mean, the whole
Man.
creepy dolls thing, especially if you go into somebody else's house and they have creepy dolls. Ugh. I feel like they're gonna. I don't know.
They're
And I
gonna wake
think.
up.
Oh, I had the Nun too. This might be more than 5, but the Nun, like any sort of stuff like that, that goes with the whole spiritual, religious stuff, can be pretty creepy if framed a certain way. What about
Yeah.
you?
Well, I mean, I can't say Pennywise because I think Pennywise is cool now, but Pennywise, Freddy Krueger, Mike Myers. I thought the first, well, of course, the original Halloween, but I thought the second original one, like the first one of this last trilogy that it did, I thought that was a good one. Uh, the devil movies, like when people start like bones breaking and they walk funny. The first Exorcist was the scariest movie in the history of everything, and that new one looks scary too. So I probably won't see it. Um, I'll say a low key
Do you want me to
monster.
watch it with you? Hold your
Yeah,
hand.
yeah, I might kick somebody. I'll kick out. And so any stuff like that, the Hereditary, all those the Hereditary, the Conjuring, and all that stuff is kind of stupid. The Nun. Here's my deal with scary movies. Usually the first 75% of them are great or pretty good. Then the last 25% it just gets stupid and it ruins it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. That's why I typically, the scary movies I like are the ones like I was talking about, where it's like they're in this house and they just hear noises and weird shit happens and all that sort of stuff. Because I don't know, I feel like if I'm in some random house and I'm hearing these noises, my mind's going to start to kind of wander. But like Freddy Krueger, I guess that's not a great example, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like
Lights
some of
Out.
those.
Go watch Lights Out on Netflix.
You know what also creeped me out? What was that? I can't think of it. I don't want to waste time because I know we got to get off here. But
Yep.
yeah, I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Just hold it till next time. I like a good scary movie, but like that is realistic.
Yes.
That could happen.
Yes.
And that's where it gets scary.
What's
That's
the
why I
one
think
where the couple, they go and stay at this house in the middle of nowhere, and this man and these 2 women, they have the mask on and they're just messing with them the entire time. They eventually kill him.
That sounds like
Strangers, I think it is.
that
That's
sound
that
yeah.
was that was kind of creepy as hell. There are times where I have to stay in hotels that are in the middle of nowhere, so my mind kind of goes there.
That is epic. Don Callahan barricading doors in hotels, scared to death. It's been a fun show. I can't believe it's already 5 minutes past the hour. Shout out to the folks that stayed with us. Shout out to Johnny T-shirt and Congruity for being sponsors of this wonderful time spent with Don Callahan. Don, it's always a pleasure. You have homework. You need to make Campbell tailgate in 2 weeks,
Yes,
and
that is definitely my intent.
I guess we may talk before that as well. No, we will not talk before that game. So I will spend our next episode hammering you if you do not make the bowls lot. Folks, we're out of here. Shout out to the folks. Shout out to Inside Carolina. Stay with Inside Carolina for all the content leading up to North Carolina, Georgia Tech, 8 o'clock on Saturday night. A lot of basketball content coming from Adam and Jeremiah. ACC Media Days today. I'll have some baseball content. The Fall World Series is going on in Chapel Hill as well. It's always a pleasure, Don. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, Tommy.